An Astrologer's Day by R K Narayan. I will be reading the text and explaining it to you. I want you to also follow me as I read, so we will all read together. Okay, let's begin. Punctually at midday, he opened his bag and spread out his professional equipment, which consisted of a dozen cowrie shells, a square piece of cloth with an obscure mystic chart on it, a notebook, and a bundle of Pilmara writing. His forehead was resplendent with sacred ash and vermilion, his eyes sparkled with a sharp abnormal gleam, which was really an outcome of an continual searching look for customers, but which his simple clients took to be a prophetic light and felt comforted. So, the story begins with the writer telling us how the astrologer begins his day. Okay, so very punctually, he was never late. Punctually, in the afternoon, the astrologer would come and start his business. So you have to know what are the things he does as he comes. First thing, he opens his bag, okay, and spread out his professional equipment. You know, these astrologers, they have several types of equipments. So even this particular astrologer brought along with him his professional equipment. And what are they? A dozen cowrie shells, a square piece of cloth. Here, cowrie shells are a small snail, okay, that is commonly found in the Pacific and Indian Ocean. So he has lots of cowrie shells, dried up cowrie shells, a square piece of cloth with an obscure mystic chart on it, a notebook, and a bundle of Pilmera writing. Here, Pilmera, as you can see here below, Pilmera is a paper, okay, kind of paper, which is made from the leaves of Palmyra trees. Yeah, so these are the things he brought along with him. What are they? A dozen cowrie shells, a square piece of cloth with obscure mystic chart on it, meaning this cloth has some kind of writing in it, very mysterious. Okay, we don't even know what it is. So he has this. He also has a notebook and a bundle of Pilmer writing. And what about his forehead? What was in his forehead? It was decorated with sacred ash and vermilion, with colorful paint. Okay, it was decorated. And his eyes, what about his eyes? His eyes sparkled with a sharp, abnormal gleam, which was really an outcome of continual searching for the customers. Okay, so his eyes, sparkled. He, as he looked at people going up and down, they see it to be sparkling. Why? Here it says, he looked as though he is searching for customers. Businessman. mm, as a business person, okay, this astrologer was trying his best to get customers, so he would have the sparkling look in his eyes. And his customers liked it. Okay, here they said that it looked prophetic, so they felt comforted looking at his eyes. The power of his eyes was considerably enhanced by their position. Placed as they were between the painted forehead and the dark whiskers which streamed down his cheeks, even a half-wit's eyes would sparkle in such a setting. To crown the effect, he wore a saffron-colored turban around his head. So he also had a saffron-colored turban, okay, tied around his head. Saffron color, what color is this? Saffron is a mixture of orange and yellow, so it's a very bright colored cloth. He had this tied around his head. This color scheme never failed. People were attracted to him as bees are attracted to cosmos or dahlia stalks. So people were attracted to this astrologer. They would flock around him. Here it has been compared to bees that are attracted to flowers. Okay, so people were really attracted to this astrologer. There is something in him that attracted people. He sat under the boughs of the spreading tamarind tree. So, where did he sit? Under the branches of the spreading tamarind tree, which flanked a path running through the town hall park. So, he sat in the area which is most crowded. He really knows how to do his business. He sat in the most crowded place in the town. Okay, it was a remarkable it was a remarkable place in many ways. A surging crowd was always moving up and down this narrow road, morning till night. A variety of trades and occupations was represented all along its way. So there were many other businessmen in this footpath who all were there. Let's see: medicine sellers, sellers of stolen hardware and junk, magicians, and above all, an auctioneer of cheap cloth who created enough din. Here, din means money, who created enough din all day to attract the whole town. So there were different types of business person, like people who sold medicine, people selling stolen things, okay, magicians, and there were also auctioneers. So it was a very busy place. Next to him, in vociferousness, came a vendor of fried groundnuts, who gave his ware a fancy name each day, calling it Bombay ice cream one day, and on the next Delhi almond, and on the third Raja's delicacy, and so on and so forth, and people flocked to him. So, next to the astrologer was a man who sold peanuts. Now, this man was very funny. Why? He kept changing the name of his, here it says, he kept changing the name of his item. Okay, one day he would call it Bombay ice cream, the next day he would call it Delhi almond, and the third day he would call it Raja's delicacy, and so on and so forth. So he never stuck to one name. He kept changing his the name of his item that he was selling. But people liked him. They flocked to him. A considerable portion of this crowd dallied before the astrologer too. So the peanut vendor was very, very popular. So also was the astrologer. So people would flock around them. The astrologer transacted his business by the light of a flare which crackled and smoked up above the groundnut heap nearby. So the astrologer depended on the light coming from the shop of the man who sold peanut. Since he did not have a light of his own, okay, he would depend on the light of the peanut selling vendor. Half the enchantment of the place was due to the fact that it did not have the benefit of municipal lighting. The place was lit up by shop lights. One or two had hissing gas lights. Some had naked flares stuck on poles. Some were lit up by old cycle lamps. And one or two, like the astrologers, managed without lights of their own. So, this particular place did not have municipal lighting. So, they all brought their own lights from home. And some people don't even have lights like the astrologer, so they depended on their friends who had lights. It was a bewildering crisscross of light rays and moving shadows. This suited the astrologer very well, for the simple reason that he had not in the least intended to be an astrologer when he began life, and he knew no more of what was going to happen to others than he knew what was going to happen to himself next minute. As I've told you in the introduction in the previous lesson, in the previous class, okay, that this person is not a real astrologer. Remember, he is a fake astrologer. So he does not know his job very well. He does not know what will happen to him the next minute. Okay, an astrologer is a person who can read the future, but here he does not even know what will happen to him the next minute. So, how can he predict the future of his customers? Just imagine. He was as much a stranger to the stars as were his innocent customers. So, he did not even know how to read the stars. Yet, he said things which pleased and astonished everyone. That was more a matter of study, practice, and shrewd guesswork. But in spite of not knowing his job, okay, luckily, we should say, he always made his customers happy. All the same, it was as much an honest man's labor as any other, and he deserved the wages he carried home at the end of a day. He had left his village without any previous thought or plan. Okay, before this astrologer comes to Malgudi, okay, before he comes to this place, he was in this particular village. His village was very far away from this place. Now, why did he leave his village? Here it says he had left his village without any previous thought or plan. He did not plan to leave his village. If he had continued there, he would have carried on the work of his forefathers, namely tilling the land, living, marrying, and ripening in his cornfield and ancestral home. So here it says if he had been in his village, okay, he would have to carry on the work of his forefathers, that is, farming. So he did not like farming. So this is one reason why he left his village. But that was not to be. He had to leave home without telling anyone, and he could not rest till he left it behind a couple of 100 miles. So, the main reason of him leaving his village is a secret. Nobody knows why. Only this astrologer knows the reason. We will come to know about the main reason why he left his village at the end of this lesson. So, when he left his village, he did not have peace of mind. Okay, here it says, he left home without telling anyone. He left home very secretly, and he did not have rest or peace of mind till he crossed 100 miles. To a villager, it is a great deal, as if an ocean flowed between. Okay, so let's continue. He had a working analysis of mankind's trouble, marriage, money, and the tangles of human ties. So, his work was mainly concerned with the troubles of human beings, that is, marriage, money, and human ties, the ties between human beings. Long practice had sharpened his perception. Okay, so when he began this job, he was very nervous, but after years of experience and practice, he is now very professional at this job. Within 5 minutes, he understood what was wrong. He charged 3 pies. So, how much did he charge his customers? 3 pies. Here, pies, let's see. Pies is a coin of India, of very small value. It is less than a rupee. Okay, so he charged 3 pies per question and never opened his mouth till the other had spoken for at least 10 minutes, which provided him enough stuff for a dozen answers and advices. So he was very cunning and smart. Here, he charged how much per question? He charged 3 pies per question. So when the customer started talking, starts asking question, he would never open his mouth. He would let them speak as much as they want, because the more they spoke, the more money he gets. Okay, so this is what he does. When he told the person before him, gazing at his palm, in many ways you are not getting the fullest results of your efforts, 9 out of 10 were disposed to agree with him. So he would gaze at their palm. Okay, he would tell them to put out their hands, and he would pretend to read their palm. And people were most of the time uh, satisfied with his answers. Here's his 9 out of 10 were disposed to agree with him. They would agree with him. Or he questioned, is there any woman in your family, maybe even a distant relative, who is not well disposed towards you? Or he gave an analysis of character. Most of your troubles are due to your nature. How can you be otherwise with Saturn where he is? You have an impetuous nature and a rough exterior. So these are some of the ways he would answer to his customers. This endeared him to their hearts immediately, for even the mildest of us loves to think that he has a forbidding exterior. So we will pause here, and in the next lesson, I will continue with the remaining part of the lesson. So, what are the important things I have to explain to you here? You have to know what did the astrologer does first when he comes in the uh, marketplace. What did he do? Okay, that you will find it in the first paragraph itself. Right, remember, he would spread out his professional equipment. You will have to mention what are his equipments. And it is also good to know the marketplace, what type of people were there, and how did he come to Malgudi from the village. Why did he come to this new place from his village? Okay, and how did he deal with his customers? Did his customer like him? Okay, all these are important questions that you have to know from the lessons we had, from the portion we had just covered.